This is For My Sons, a space where we equip men to lead themselves, their families, and their communities with strength and wisdom. I'm your host, Papa O, a father, a husband, a son, and a student of life. Here, we dive into all the topics that shape the development of men. Lessons, stories, and principles you can use to strengthen your family and impact your community. If you're passionate about becoming a better man, building a better family, and leaving a better world, you're in the right place. Let's jump into today's conversation. Last week, we talked about the importance of responsibility. How a man's life begins to change the moment he stops running from it. Responsibility is the foundation. But this week, we build on that foundation with the bricks of hard work. Because it's one thing to accept the weight of your responsibility as a man, husband and father, or father, depending on where you are in life. It's another thing to entirely carry it with consistency day in, day out. And that's where hard work comes in. It's not just about labor, but disciplined effort. The kind that turns ordinary men into protectors, providers, and leaders worth following. Now, if you missed last week's episode on the importance of responsibility, go back and listen. And if you're ready to take the next step, to put your hands and feet to the vision you carry, then this episode for you. And I want to start today's conversation with a story from my own childhood, a time when hard work made all the difference, a moment that shaped the way I see effort, manhood, and what it really means to earn something with your hands, or in this case, your brain. So I was in primary school at this time. I think I was around 7 or 8. And what my mum liked to do was that over the weekends, she liked to just randomly give me tasks to do. And I think on one of these weekends, it was just something to do with maths for whatever reason. I wasn't really that great at maths, particularly mental arithmetic at the time. I was pretty average at it. And she didn't like it. She didn't like the fact that I was average at it. Now, remember I've said a couple of episodes ago, like Nigerian parents, they like to have a academically educated child or well-educated child. So for the fact that I was pretty average at maths, she's like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. You are doing lessons. And what am I, 7 or 8? What am I going to say? No. I'm just like, all right, mum. So it took me to an after-school club. I did this, and in this after-school club, it specialised in mental arithmetic, which of course is wonderful for maths. So I did that for a year and a half, and it was like every day I had to do some work on it. It was like, I don't know, it didn't take longer than 10 minutes a day. So every day, 10 minutes a day, I'd be doing this maths. And the reason why, I remember this, reason why it was 10 minutes was because you had to complete it within 10 minutes. So, of course, it could be shorter some days, could be, it couldn't be more than 10 minutes. My mum made sure of that. The book says no longer than 10 minutes. You better finish it in 10 minutes. So, told that, so after a year and a half doing this 10 minutes, my mental arithmetic went through the roof. It was like I went from being like a mid guy to being one of the top performers in my year. And I stayed being a top performer in maths in my year until I left primary school. It was great. So, yeah, my mental arithmetic skills were up there. I ended up being a top performer in maths for that year, which I think was like year 4, year 5. Then the subsequent year, so it was year 4, year 5, year 6, consistently a top performer in maths because I put in the hard work for a year and a half doing these mental arithmetic after school pieces of work. So yeah, hard work does pay off, especially when it is deliberate. So what is hard work? Hard work is defined simply as sustained effort and endurance. And what I want to discuss about next is also something that you'll face in every chapter of your life, from school to sports, business, even in your closest relationships. And it's the tension between talent and hard work. If there's something key that I want you to take away from this podcast, it is this phrase: hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I'll say it again for the people in the back. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Now, I'm sure you've heard that phrase before. And the reason why it's an important phrase is because it affects every aspect of your life. As I've said, it affects your relationships, school, business, your professional career. Talent is great, don't get me wrong, but talent is just natural potential. It's the raw material. It's like having a block of marble, or a great block of marble at that. But hard work, that's the sculptor's hands. That's the early mornings, the rewrites, the failed reps at the gym, the skipped parties, the extra film study, the journaling when you'd rather scroll. Talent might open the door, but hard work is what keeps you in the room. And in the long run, it's what gets you to the next floor. I'll tell you an uncomfortable truth. Some people might think it's controversial, but here we go. Life is not fair. Never has been, never will be. There, I said it. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because life not being fair means that not everybody starts at the same level, right? You have some kids that grow up in systems that teach them to win. You have others that grow up in systems that teach them to survive. So yeah, you're going to have some people that are born with advantages, right? Better schools, better networks, more time, more money, a body built for their favorite sport, or a brain that's wired for numbers far better than anybody else around them, right? There are some people that are just naturally talented. Like, I came across people in school who, because I always thought in school, look, I'm pretty clever, right? I'm pretty intelligent. But there were some where I would even ask them, I'd be like, mate, how did you do that? And they just look at me and be like, I don't know, I just did it. Right? That's talent. Right? They had raw talent. Head and shoulders above other people. Right? And it is present everywhere. There are going to be talented people all over the shop. Whatever you do, there's going to be someone that excels at you in something through just straight talent. Sorry. But Papa, it's not fair. I'm glad you said that, because life is not fair. The faster you understand that, I'm sure I'll talk about that in a later podcast. The faster you understand that, the easier for everybody else, and yourself especially, in the way that you act with everybody else. Life is not fair. Okay? People are going to start, let's use the analogy of a 100-meter sprint, right, when it comes to talent. Some people are going to start at the 50-meter line. Just straight up, you might be starting minus 20 meters, right? Life isn't fair. People are talented at different things. Sometimes the things that you want to do or you're most interested in, you don't have as much talent for as other people do. But that doesn't mean just because you start in a certain position that you can't advance, right? Where you start, you're not responsible for. Absolutely. But how far you go, now that's down to you. And in almost every field, over time, discipline and consistency beat natural ability that sits still. If you're still not convinced about how hard work beats talent, no problem. No problem. I've got some examples for you. Right? Number 1, Anthony Joshua, the boxer, better known as AJ. Right? The guy didn't walk into a gym until he was like 18. Right? So, and in the boxing world, where most people would start at something like 8 or 9, he had to play catch up. So he was in the gym for those hours, conditioning, sparring, watching film. right? He had to put in the hard work in order to catch up to where his peers were. And it's from that, he won an Olympic gold and, went on to become a world champion. So that's example number 1. Example number 2, Jamie Vardy. Now, for anybody that's watched football, you know who Jamie Vardy is, right? But let me give you a bit of background, right? 25. He was still playing non-league football, working part-time in a factory, right? Nowhere near the heights. And typically at 25, what you would normally have is that's when you have footballers hitting their career peak in terms of their physical ability, their knowledge of the game, their prowess. He was still playing non-league football, right? No academy, no youth stardom, any guy, right? But because he was relentless, he put in the work. His pace started to get noticed. His pressing started to get noticed. And he kept improving up until a point where he won the Premier League and the Golden Boot for that season for Leicester City. Right? That's example number 2. Example number 3. Stormzy, the music artist. He wasn't handpicked. He wasn't marketed beforehand to be, oh my gosh, this is the next new talent that's coming out of the UK scene. No, none of that. No big label. No co-sign from another artist being like, hey, look, watch out for this guy. None of that. Right? Just raw hunger from Stormzy. He just kept working at his craft. Freestyle after freestyle after freestyle. Where he was putting out bars with charisma, message. Right? Then bit by bit, over time, the world started to take notice. Now he's headed up Glastonbury, and he's absolutely changed what success in the UK rap scene looks like. Again, his talent was there, but it was his hustle that made history. And example number 4, let me tell you about the man behind the world's first bagless vacuum cleaner, Sir James Dyson. Yes, I said it. James Dyson. Oh, because you can see all his vacuums everywhere, you think it just started out like that? No, the man didn't come from wealth. He didn't come from a family of inventors. He was just really curious and really stubborn with his work ethic. When he noticed that vacuum cleaners weren't sucking up as much as they could, they were losing their suction, he didn't complain. He just got to work. Now, over 5 years, he built 5,127 prototypes before one finally worked. I'm going to say it again for the people in the back. He built 5,127 prototypes before one finally worked. That's crazy numbers. Who's trying something 5,127 times before it works? Huh? I'd be hard pressed to find it. Even I can include myself in that. That would be really long. That'd be really long. But he was dedicated. He put in that work. He put in that time. And with all of these prototypes, every time that he would have reiterated, he would have gone again. Takes a bit out of you when you don't succeed in something. We get really downhearted when we don't succeed the first time at something. So to try again in a similar fashion, it's a lot more emotionally taxing. Imagine having to do that over 5,000 times before finally something clicks. Right? That takes a lot of resilience. That takes a lot of grit in order to keep coming back over and over and over and over. And even after he got that prototype that finally worked, every manufacturer rejected him. So that's how he ended up with Dyson Limited. Right? Built it from scratch, mortgaged his house to fund it, and now Dyson is a global tech giant today. And James Dyson's worth over £20 billion. So to you that's listening, what does this mean for you? Well, look, you might not be the fastest. You might not be the strongest. You might not be the one who gets picked first. But if you show up, show humility, and show discipline, you will outlast those who coast on talent. You'll earn what they assume they're entitled to. And when the pressure comes, when it really counts, it's the ones who trained for it who rise, not just the ones who wing it. There is a specific reason as to why those that are considered great at what they do have been doing it for an absolute long period of time. I mentioned James Dyson before. James Dyson has been in the game for over 45 years, right? Sir Richard Branson of the Virgin Group, he's been working at his craft for over 50 years. Julian Richer from Richer Sounds, he's been working on his craft for over 45 years. Warren Buffett, the world's greatest investor, right, at Berkshire Hathaway, has been working for 70 plus years. Right, I'm sure, and I think even Warren Buffett at the end has mentioned it, there are people that were way more talented than him. Way more talented than him. He just stayed in the game longer. Sustained, diligent work. Stayed in the game longer, outlasted them all. I don't know who any other investor, I mean, of course, I've heard of Charlie Munger, his partner. But really, if anyone else within his class of investors in his time, not heard a peep from anybody else. So when I'm talking about hard work, I'm not just talking about hard, aimless work. I'm talking about work that is done deliberately. So when hard work is deliberately done, it changes everything. Right? So that hard work needs to be focused, it needs to be intentional, and it needs to be consistent. That's when it becomes a tool that outlasts talent, luck, or even timing. What do they say about the stock market? It doesn't matter about timing the market. It matters more about time in the market. Similar analogy. Similar thing here with hard work. If you want some statistics, you want some data, no problem. Let me help you with that too. Right? So what I'm referring to the Office of National Statistics. And that's the Office of National Stats based in the United Kingdom, right? Now, according to the ONS, which is what they'll be shortened to, because apparently I can't state statistics properly, people who changed their jobs between 2020 and 2021 earned 6.6% more than those who stayed still. And it wasn't just about job switching. It was about the confidence and adaptability to grow into something new. That kind of growth only comes when you're doing the work, when you've been preparing before the opportunity came. So, people that work harder get paid more. Or at least that's what I can see here, right? That's not me saying that, that's the data saying that. Take it as you will, right? Point number 2. Over 6.9 million UK workers took an extra training day in a 3-month stretch. Who were they? Mostly those in highly skilled or demanding roles. This shows us something clear. Deliberate practice, as in deliberate hard work, not just putting in the hours, right? But there's a focus behind it, there's intent behind it, is what moves people forward. It's not just about working hard, it's about working smart, adjusting, studying, and repeating. And that's what gives your effort a return. And it's kind of like a compound effect. Because the harder the work you do that's deliberate in a specific area, what's the word I'm looking for here? The more exponential the progress will be. Now, of course, I'm sure, there's an S-curve that it slows down at some point. All right, cool, we got it. But by the time you get to the top of that S-curve that I'm talking about, the level of progress you're making for the amount of work that you're putting in, you will see bigger and bigger and bigger returns for that work because you're working on a solid foundation. a solid foundation of hard work, as the case may be, you know what I'm saying? So I've mentioned about hard work. I've mentioned about deliberate hard work. Now, some of you might be asking, well, if I'm doing all this hard work, right, what am I getting back in return? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing all this hard work in silence? And I'll tell you why. For the confidence. There's a military saying that says, the more you sweat in practice, the less you bleed in battle. So every rep you're doing, every page you write, every new thing you learn, that's how you silence the nerves. Because you want to get to a point where you're practicing so much you're putting in the deliberate hard work for your craft in the form of practice, that when the opportunity arises, be that in a game if you're playing a sport, be that in an exam that you're taking at school or uni, or even at work, because you got post work diplomas, post work of course, masters, PhDs, those sort of things. And even if it's something as simple as your current job where it is in something like sales, given that presentation, right, you want to make sure that you have calmed the nerves to a point where you can carry yourself with the appropriate confidence in order to secure that person's business, or to get that grade, or to get that result in the sport you're looking for. Obviously, no one's looking to lose, but whether you're looking to make a small or large contribution to your team in your chosen sport, you walk in bold because you've already done the hard things when nobody's watching, when you're putting in that work, that hard work, that hard, deliberate work. So as always, I like to give as much practical advice as I possibly can that's relevant to the topic of conversation, and today's conversation being on hard work. So I have 3 tips for you today. Number 1, finish what you started. Look around your life, find one unfinished task, no matter how small, and get it done. Get it completed today. Whether it's an unread book, a half-done project, or an unreturned phone call that you've been putting off for however length of time, finish it. Every act of follow-through sharpens your discipline. Number 2, do one hard thing you've been avoiding. Today, tackle one thing you've been putting off, whether it's a difficult conversation, a home project, or a fitness goal. Hard work doesn't always look glamorous, but it always builds discipline. Take the first step right now. And to give you an example, like where I know this is something that I struggle with, most certainly is fitness goals. At this point in time, I love playing team sports, so I like to keep as active as I possibly can. And there are times where I'm all guns blazing, momentum is going my way. And then there are other times where either I've had like a little niggle, an injury of some sort, or life has gotten in the way because, you have your job, you have your wife and kids to take care of, and I'll be putting it off. So this is something, this podcast as a whole is not just for you in terms of your development, it's also for me. Because everything that I'm telling you about, everything that I'm talking to you about in terms of topics, lessons, life lessons, they're all still things that I still need to be able to accomplish myself and to achieve in my own life. Because how am I meant to build a legacy for my sons if I'm not doing the development and the work in it? Anyway, that's just to let you know that I'm here with you. So just to recap on that one, that was do the hard thing you've been avoiding. Practical tip number 3. Show your son, or for those that don't have children yet, your future son, what work looks like. Let your son, or whoever the next generation is to you, it could be a nephew of yours, let them see you doing hard work without complaining. Invite them to help or explain why you're doing it. Be the model they'll remember when life gets tough. Like, you want to be the hard man, like, especially as men. No man likes to be called soft. I think in the UK, if you're called soft and you're called boring, they are flagrant insults. No man likes to be called soft. Right? So you want to be the example. When they turn around and go, who's hard? Uncle Tommy's hard. Why? Because he puts in the work. His work looks difficult. His work is difficult, but he keeps doing it. That's hard. Right? That's how you want to be known. You don't want to be known as, oh, it's Uncle Malcolm again. Can't stand him. Why can't you stand him, Jimmy? I can't stand him because he just doesn't do anything. I never really see him doing anything. He's not even that fun. Because when we start out doing stuff that's fun, he never really gets it done, never finishes anything. People pick up on that. So yeah. Show your son or your future son what work looks like. So I'll go over those 3 practical tips again. Number 1, finish what you started. Number 2, do one hard thing you've been avoiding. And number 3, show your son or future son what work looks like. So here's my closing thoughts. Ishe ni ogun ishegun. Right? The Yoruba proverb that I said at the beginning, where hard work is a cure for poverty. It carries the weight of generations who understood that nothing lasting comes easy, and that the path to honor, provision, and peace is paved with diligence and sweat. Men, your effort is not just about survival. It is sacred. Your sweat is a prayer in motion, a silent testimony to your commitment, your love, and your legacy. Every time you choose work with excellence, whether at your job or in your home or within yourself, you're carving out a future that others can stand on. Let your life prove that hard work still matters. In a world that's chasing shortcuts, be the man who shows what can be built with consistency, honor, and grit. Be the example your sons and community remember. Let your work speak long after your words have faded. Now go work hard. Go work hard deliberately. And let that work on you. And just before you go, there is one book that I would really, really, really recommend. And that is called Talent is Never Enough by John C. Maxwell. Absolutely love that book. I'm pretty sure I read that book at least once a year. Simply because it's a reminder about the hard, diligent work you need to put in, the persistence you need to put in. So if anybody's looking for a book that kind of expands on talent, that expands on persistent hard work, Talent is Never Enough by John C. Maxwell. Thank you for joining me today on For My Sons. I hope today's message challenged you, encouraged you, or gave you something worth passing down. If you found value in this episode, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss a new letter, a new lesson, or a new legacy moment. Until next time, be a communication CEO. Communicate clearly, communicate early, and communicate often. This is Papa Ro, and I am